What if I told you that your healthy breakfast of cottage cheese could spike your insulin levels even more than a slice of cake? Sounds crazy, right? We've been conditioned to believe that sugar is the ultimate villain and protein is our best friend when it comes to health and weight loss. But today, we're going to uncover the shocking truth about so-called healthy, high-protein foods. In this video, you'll find out why cottage cheese, yogurt, and even certain types of meat could be the hidden enemies sabotaging your progress. I'm going to reveal the 6 main culprits that are secretly working against your insulin and weight loss goals. Do you still think all protein is always safe? Type yes or no in the comments right now. I promise that by the end of this video, your perspective will be completely transformed. Stick with me. This is going to be eye-opening. Before we get to the list, we need to understand the basics. Most of you are familiar with the Glycemic Index. It tracks how quickly carbohydrates raise your blood sugar. For years, this was the go-to guide for anyone watching their weight or managing diabetes. If you eat white bread, your blood sugar spikes. It's simple and straightforward, but science has evolved, and there's a new, far more important metric you need to know, the Insulin Index. This measures how much a specific food triggers your pancreas to release insulin. And this is where things get really interesting. It turns out that some foods with almost no carbs and a low glycemic index can actually cause a massive surge in insulin. Think of it this way. Imagine sugar is a guest who knocks loudly on your front door. Insulin is the doorman who opens that door. Well, certain protein foods are like silent guests. They don't knock at all, but they still trick the doorman into throwing the doors wide open and causing total chaos inside the house. Now, you might wonder why this insulin response is so important. Well, insulin is far more than just a hormone that clears sugar from our blood. Think of it as a powerful signal that tells our cells to start storing things away. While it helps our cells get energy from glucose, it also sends a clear message to our fat cells. Stop burning fat. It's time to store it instead. When our insulin levels stay high all the time, our bodies get stuck in this storage mode. This actually blocks our natural ability to burn fat. You could be following a strict diet and counting every single calorie, but if you're eating foods that trigger a high insulin response, losing weight becomes an uphill battle. What's more, if insulin stays high for too long, our cells can eventually stop responding to it altogether. This is what we call insulin resistance, and it is a direct path toward type 2 diabetes and other chronic health issues. That is why managing your insulin, not just your sugar, is one of the most important keys to staying healthy as we get older. Let's take a closer look at the history of the insulin index. This concept was first introduced back in the 1990s by Dr. Suzanne Holt and her team at the University of Sydney. They conducted an extensive study where volunteers were given various foods, each containing exactly 240 calories. Their insulin levels were then measured every 15 minutes for a full 2 hours. Using white bread as the benchmark, setting its value at 100%, the results were truly groundbreaking. They discovered that foods high in protein and fat also trigger an insulin response. In some cases, it was even stronger than the response from pure carbohydrates. This research proved that focusing only on carbs is like trying to look at the world through a tiny keyhole. To see the full picture, we must consider how our bodies react to everything we eat. Now let's get started with our list. And the first culprit, which might come as a bit of a shock, is dairy. Yes, all those dairy products we know and love. Quite a surprise, isn't it? We've spent years believing that cottage cheese, yogurt, and kefir are the very backbone of a healthy diet. After all, they're high in protein and low in carbohydrates. So what could possibly go wrong? Well, here's the thing. Even though dairy has a low glycemic index, it has an incredibly high insulin index. To give you an idea, the insulin index of milk can reach 90 or even 98, which is practically the same as eating a slice of white bread. But why does this happen? Scientists believe it's due to the unique way milk proteins like whey and casein interact with our bodies. They contain specific amino acids that signal the pancreas to start pumping out insulin immediately. It's as if your body gets a message that a feast is on the way, so it releases a huge burst of insulin just to be ready for it. Now let's turn our attention to the real star of today's investigation, cottage cheese. You might be surprised to learn that its insulin index is a staggering 120. Let me repeat that, 120. That is 20% higher than white bread, which most of us consider the ultimate bad food. How is this possible? On paper, cottage cheese is mostly casein, a slow-digesting protein that you'd expect to be absorbed gradually. However, its specific amino acid profile is a massive trigger for the pancreas. When you eat cottage cheese, your blood sugar levels barely budge. If you check your glucose monitor, the numbers will look perfectly fine. But behind the scenes, a literal insulin storm is brewing. Your body is receiving a powerful signal to start storing fat. For anyone dealing with insulin resistance or type 2 diabetes, this supposedly healthy snack can completely stall your weight loss and worsen your health, even if your sugar readings stay normal. It is a classic example of focusing on the symptom, high blood sugar, while completely ignoring the root cause, high insulin. Moving further along the dairy aisle, the second item on our list is yogurt, specifically the low-fat variety. Honestly, it's a true 21st century marketing masterpiece. For decades, we've been told that fat is the enemy, and low-fat products have been sold to us as a miracle cure. But what actually happens when you strip the fat out of a product? It loses its flavour and texture. To make up for that, manufacturers load it with, you guessed it, sugar, starch, fruit syrups, and other fast-acting carbohydrates. As a result, we end up with a product that triggers an even higher insulin spike than the full-fat version. Even if you choose plain Greek yogurt with no added sugar, the insulin index is still incredibly high, around 115. It's the same issue we see with cottage cheese. The amino acids in dairy protein cause a massive surge in insulin production. So, the idea that eating a low-fat yogurt for breakfast will help you lose weight is actually one of the most misguided dieting strategies out there. The third dairy product we need to discuss is milk itself. Believe it or not, its insulin index is right around 98. It really delivers a double whammy to your system. First, you have the natural milk sugar, lactose, which breaks down into glucose and galactose, raising your blood sugar. On top of that, you have those dairy proteins, whey and casein, which give your insulin levels a powerful extra push. This combination of carbs and proteins creates what I call a perfect storm for your pancreas. There's a good reason why bodybuilders drink milk-based protein shakes after a workout. They are intentionally trying to spike their insulin to drive nutrients into their muscles. For them, in that moment, it's useful. But if you aren't lifting heavy weights at the gym and you're just enjoying a latte at your desk, that insulin spike isn't doing you any favours. It simply leads to unwanted weight around the waistline. It's even more concerning when it comes to dairy products with added sugar. When you take the natural insulin-boosting effect of milk and add extra sugar to the mix, it creates an even heavier load for your body to handle. Now, I know this might come as a bit of a shock. You're probably asking yourself, does this mean I have to give up dairy altogether? Well, not necessarily. It's all about the bigger picture. If you're healthy, active, and your metabolism is in good shape, then having a bit of yogurt or cottage cheese every now and then isn't going to hurt. But if your goal is to lose weight, or if you're managing insulin resistance or type 2 diabetes, then cutting back on dairy, even just for a while, can lead to truly fantastic results. We see it all the time. When people cut out dairy products, the weight begins to fall off, the puffiness and bloating disappear, and their skin starts to look much clearer. This happens because your insulin levels finally drop, and your body can finally switch from storing fat to burning it for fuel. Why not try a little experiment? Try going without dairy for just 2 or 3 weeks and simply see how you feel. You might be very pleasantly surprised by the results. Now let's leave the dairy aisle behind and head over to the meat counter. And believe me, there are a few surprises waiting for us here too. You see, certain types of meat actually belong to that second major group of foods with a high insulin index. Now I should clarify, not all meat is created equal, but the general rule of thumb is quite surprising. The leaner the meat, the higher the insulin response it triggers. This completely flips the old way of thinking on its head. We've always been told that lean meat, like a skinless chicken breast, is diet-friendly, while fatty pork is unhealthy. But when we look at it through the lens of insulin, it's often exactly the opposite. The natural fat in meat actually slows down digestion and, most importantly, significantly blunts that insulin spike. Lean proteins, especially in large portions, are absorbed much faster. Without fat to slow them down, those amino acids go straight to the pancreas and stimulate it more aggressively. It's just more proof that the war on fat was one of the biggest mistakes in the nutritional science of the last century. Next on our list, at number 4, is beef, specifically lean beef. It has an insulin index of about 51. While that isn't nearly as high as cottage cheese, which sits at 120, it is still quite significant when you consider that beef has a glycemic index of 0. So why is that? Well, beef is rich in branched-chain amino acids, often called BCAAs, and one in particular called leucine. Leucine is a powerful trigger for insulin because it sends a direct signal to your pancreas to start producing it. Now, this doesn't mean you should stop eating beef altogether. However, if you are trying to keep your insulin levels under control, you are actually better off choosing fattier cuts like a ribeye rather than lean tenderloin. It's also important to pair your meat with plenty of fibre from vegetables and a source of healthy fat, such as olive oil. This helps smooth out your insulin response, making the meal much gentler on your metabolism. Moving right along, it's important to remember that red meat isn't the only thing we need to keep an eye on. Some types of fish can also cause quite a spike in insulin. It's that same rule again. The leaner the fish, the higher the insulin response. That's why item number 5 on our list is certain types of white fish. Take tuna, for example, especially the kind canned in its own juice, or even cod. Surprisingly, their insulin index can be even higher than that of fatty pork. On the other hand, oily fish like salmon, mackerel, and herring are much gentler on your system. Because they're rich in omega-3 fatty acids, they trigger a much milder insulin response. In this case, the healthy fat acts as a natural buffer, slowing down digestion and taking the load off your pancreas. So when you're picking out fish, try to go for the oilier varieties. You'll not only get those wonderful omega-3 benefits, but you'll also help your body keep its insulin levels nice and steady. That old idea of dieting on nothing but boiled cod and chicken breast might sound like a good plan, but when it comes to managing your insulin, it's actually not the best way to go. And finally, we've reached number 6, a category that is the absolute champion when it comes to spiking your insulin. We're talking about protein powders, specifically whey protein. It is a total insulin trigger. Its insulin index can hit 160, which is actually higher than pure sugar. You see, whey protein is a part of milk that the body absorbs almost instantly. This floods your bloodstream with amino acids and triggers a massive release of insulin. Now, for a high-performance athlete trying to rebuild muscle after a heavy workout, that might be useful. But for the rest of us, perhaps just trying to get a bit more protein or lose some weight, it's doing more harm than good. Creating these huge insulin spikes without intense physical activity is a direct path to insulin resistance. Unless you're training like a pro, it's much better to get your protein from whole foods. When protein is naturally balanced with healthy fats and fibre, your body processes it more slowly and safely. So, there we have it, the 6 main trigger foods. We're talking about dairy, especially cottage cheese and yogurt, as well as lean beef, white fish, and whey protein. What do these all have in common? 2 things really. First, they are very high in protein, but low in healthy fats and carbohydrates. Second, they have a specific mix of amino acids that can really spike your insulin levels. Now, the big question is, should we be afraid of protein? Absolutely not. Protein is the essential building block of our bodies, and we need it to stay strong. The secret isn't cutting out protein, it's learning how to pair it correctly with other nutrients, specifically with healthy fats. Think of fats as your best friend when it comes to keeping your insulin in check. Unlike other foods, fats hardly cause an insulin response at all. Even better, they slow down how quickly your body absorbs proteins and carbs, making your overall insulin response much smoother and more balanced. So here is the golden rule for your diet. To keep your insulin levels steady, always make sure to include some healthy fats with every single meal. Let's look at a practical example. Imagine you're having a bowl of cottage cheese for breakfast. As we've discussed, on its own, this can cause a significant spike in your insulin levels. Now consider a different approach. Take that same cottage cheese, but add a spoonful of flaxseed or olive oil, and perhaps a handful of walnuts or some chia seeds. The difference is night and day. The healthy fats slow down your digestion, allowing the protein to enter your bloodstream more gradually. This means your insulin response will be much lower and more stable. The same principle applies to meat. Instead of choosing lean beef, go for a steak with a bit of fat on it. If you're having chicken breast, try adding some pesto or a bit of guacamole. For fish, a nice creamy sauce or a generous drizzle of high-quality oil works wonders. This simple adjustment allows you to enjoy your favourite protein-rich foods while keeping your insulin under control. Just remember this one golden rule: never eat your protein naked. It should always be accompanied by healthy fats and plenty of fibre. Now let's put together a list of foods that are truly your best friends if you want to keep your insulin levels under control. These are all low on the insulin index. At the very top of the list are eggs. Their insulin index is only about 31, making them a fantastic source of high-quality protein. And don't forget the yolk. It's packed with healthy fats. A simple plate of scrambled eggs or an omelette for breakfast is a wonderful way to start your day. Next, we have the fatty fish we mentioned earlier. Things like salmon, mackerel, and herring. When it comes to poultry, chicken thighs or wings are actually a better choice than a dry breast. Keeping the skin on provides those necessary fats that your body needs. As for plant-based options, the real champions are avocados, olives, and olive oil. Nuts are also excellent, especially macadamias, pecans, and walnuts, as are seeds like chia, flax, and pumpkin. Finally, fill your plate with plenty of vegetables. All types of cabbage, leafy greens, cucumbers, and zucchini are rich in fibre and have almost no impact on your insulin. Making these foods the foundation of your diet is a wonderful step toward better health. Now I know what many of you are thinking, but what about my morning porridge or a piece of fruit? Aren't those supposed to be healthy? And you're absolutely right. They are packed with vitamins and fibre. However, if you're already struggling with insulin resistance, even those slow carbs found in oats or grains can cause your blood sugar and insulin levels to spike quite significantly. Fruit can be tricky too. Because it contains fructose, it puts a fair amount of pressure on your liver, which can actually make insulin resistance worse, especially if you're having it in large amounts or as juices and smoothies. That's why, while you're actively trying to lose weight and improve your insulin sensitivity, it's best to really cut back on carbohydrates, even the complex ones. It's much better to get your nutrients from non-starchy vegetables instead. Once your metabolism has balanced out, you can slowly and carefully start bringing back small portions of berries or perhaps a bit of sweet potato. Just be sure to keep an eye on how your body reacts. Now here's something else that's very important to consider: how often you actually sit down to eat. Back in the day, we were all told that eating 5 or 6 small meals was the best way to boost the metabolism. But looking back, we now realise that was some of the worst advice possible, especially for anyone struggling with their insulin levels. You see, every time you have a bite to eat, even just a little snack, Your body releases insulin. If you're eating all day long, your insulin levels never get a chance to settle down. Your body stays stuck in storage mode, and it simply doesn't get the opportunity to start burning fat. To really help your body recover, the best approach is to stick to just 2 or 3 good meals a day, with no nibbling in between. This gives your pancreas a much-needed rest and allows your insulin to drop, finally opening that window for your body to burn fat. Something like intermittent fasting, the 16-8 method for example, can be a wonderfully effective tool for this. For years, many folks living with diabetes have been terrified of fat. We've been told time and time again that a low-fat diet is the only way to go, but honestly, that is a huge misconception, and a dangerous one at that. The truth is, a diet rich in healthy fats, with moderate protein and very few carbs, is actually the most effective, scientifically proven way to manage type 2 diabetes and insulin resistance. You see, when you cut out the carbs, your body stops relying on sugar and starts burning fat for fuel instead. This process is called ketosis. In this state, your blood sugar and insulin levels finally stabilize at a healthy, low level. Whether it's the keto diet or a gentler, low-carb, high-fat approach, it has been a total game-changer for so many people. It often allows them to significantly reduce their medication or even come off it altogether, always under a doctor's supervision, of course. So please, stop worrying about a bit of butter, some lard, fatty meat, or those egg yolks. The real enemy isn't healthy fat, it's sugar and the processed foods that spike your insulin. It's time to stop fearing fat and start fueling your body the right way. Let's clear up another common misconception. You'll often hear that a sharp rise in insulin from eating protein is nothing to worry about. The theory is that your body also produces a hormone called glucagon, which supposedly cancels out insulin's fat-storing effects. But this is a bit of a half-truth that can lead you astray. While it's true that glucagon raises blood sugar by signaling the liver to release glucose, it does absolutely nothing to stop insulin's primary role, which is to block the breakdown of body fat. As long as your insulin levels remain high, fat burning is effectively switched off, regardless of how much glucagon is present. This mechanism is great for keeping your blood sugar stable, but it won't protect your metabolism from the negative effects of high insulin. So, believing that glucagon will save the day while you're eating piles of cottage cheese is just wishful thinking. The real key to health is making sure your insulin spikes stay as low and as short as possible after every meal. Another vital factor to keep in mind is that every body is unique. While the Insulin Index provides a helpful general guide, your personal reaction to certain foods may be quite different. It all comes down to your genetics, how active you are, your gut health, and your individual level of insulin resistance. The most effective way to see exactly how food affects you is by using a continuous glucose monitor. This is a small, simple device worn on the arm that tracks your blood sugar levels in real time. By watching your patterns after different meals, you can clearly identify your food friends and your food foes. You might even be surprised to find that a supposedly healthy food causes a sharp sugar spike, while something from the forbidden list doesn't affect you much at all. It truly is the most personalized approach to nutrition you can possibly have. To wrap things up, I want to be very clear. The point of this video isn't to frighten you or make you feel guilty about what you eat. My goal is simply to give you the knowledge you need to make the right choices for yourself. The world of nutrition is often full of old myths and outdated advice, but understanding how insulin actually works is the real secret to taking back control of your health. It gives you the freedom to stop worrying about counting every single calorie and finally put an end to those constant hunger pangs. When you focus on foods that keep your insulin levels steady, you'll find your energy stays consistent, those sugar cravings disappear, and your body naturally finds its way to a healthy weight. This isn't a temporary fad diet. It's a long-term plan for a healthier, happier life. Don't be afraid to try new things and listen to what your body is telling you. It really is your best and wisest guide. Start with something small. Perhaps swap your morning yogurt for some eggs and avocado tomorrow, and just see how much better you feel. So, let's wrap things up. Today, we've taken a real look at the science behind what we eat, and we've discovered something quite surprising. It's not just sugar we need to watch out for. As it turns out, even those healthy, protein-rich foods can trigger a massive insulin spike. Take cottage cheese, for example. It has an insulin index of 120. Then there's low-fat yogurt, lean beef, and especially whey protein. These are the hidden culprits that very few people ever talk about. The big takeaway here is that the glycemic index doesn't tell the whole story. It's the insulin index that really opens our eyes to how our bodies react to food. If you want to manage your weight and keep your energy levels steady, it's not just about cutting out carbs. It's about choosing meals that keep your insulin response as low as possible. Our best allies in this are healthy fats, which help smooth out the body's reaction to protein. Thank you for sticking with me through this. I know it was a lot of information, but I hope you found it truly helpful. If this has changed the way you think about your diet, please do give this video a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our next deep dive. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever had a feeling that certain healthy foods just weren't right for you? Maybe you've noticed your body reacting strangely to things like yogurt or cottage cheese. Please share your experience in the comments below. Let's talk about it.